During a rally in Minneapolis, Representative Ilhan Omar shocked the crowd by referring to Somalia's president as our president. The remark instantly went viral, sparking outrage across America. Moments later, President Donald Trump delivered an unforgettable clapback that silenced critics and left millions emotional. This dramatic exchange captured patriotism, identity, and leadership in one of the most talked about moments of 2025. The night air in Minneapolis was thick with music, flags, and pride. Thousands filled the convention center, waving both American and Somali flags, cheering as Representative Ilhan Omar took the stage. Cameras flashed. News outlets streamed live. No one expected what she was about to say next. "Thank you for the opportunity to be here," Omar began, smiling warmly. "Thank you, Somalia. Thank you, President Hassan Sheikh Mohammed, from Minneapolis." The audience roared with applause as her words grew bolder. "Somalia is our home. It is home to all the people gathered here. We are very happy that Hassan is our president." For a brief moment, there was silence, then a wave of cheers filled the hall. But outside, millions of Americans watching online froze in disbelief. Our president. The clips replayed endlessly on X. Within minutes, hashtags like #MirOmarSpeech and #YouOurPresident began trending. Conservative voices exploded in anger. In living rooms across the nation, veterans, teachers, and everyday patriots felt a sting deep in their hearts. To many, those words weren't just careless, they were betrayal. In the Oval Office, President Donald Trump was briefed. He leaned back in his chair, eyes narrowing, and said softly, "So, she finally said it." By midnight, Omar's clip had spread everywhere. Fox News replayed it in disbelief. CNN struggled to explain the translation online. People flooded the comments. How can a U.S. Congresswoman call another country's leader our president? At truck stops in Texas, diners in Florida, and small towns across Wisconsin, Americans shook their heads. Many immigrants who had proudly become citizens felt especially hurt. "I came here for America," said an Ethiopian-born nurse in Ohio. "If she still calls Somalia home, then what does she think this is?" In Washington, reporters swarmed Capitol Hill, shouting questions at Omar's staff, but her office remained silent. The clip from Minneapolis now had over 670,000 engagements, climbing fast. Every replay made the anger grow. At the White House, Caroline Leavitt, the sharp young press secretary, prepared her notes. "Mr. President," she said, "the people want to hear from you. They're furious." Trump, calm but firm, nodded. "They'll hear from me soon, but not yet. Timing matters." He understood the art of momentum. The longer the outrage built, the louder his words would echo. Across America, the mood turned heavy. Something deeper than politics was stirring, a question of loyalty, belonging, and love for the flag. Morning sunlight poured over Washington, D.C., but it couldn't brighten the tension hanging in the air. News anchors dissected Omar's every sentence. Some defended her, calling it cultural pride. Others called it treason in plain sight. Inside the West Wing, staff hurried between briefings. Social media reports piled up, over 1.22 million views and climbing. Governors and congressmen issued statements. The country was on edge. Trump sat quietly by the window, gazing at the American flag outside the White House. He remembered his father's words, "Never let anyone forget what America means." He turned to his communications chief. "You see this, don't you? This isn't about Ilhan Omar. It's about what people feel when someone disrespects their home. Americans love this country. They'll defend it, with tears in their eyes." He stood, straightened his red tie, and spoke with conviction. "Prepare the true social post. But when I speak, it must come from the heart. This isn't just a clapback, it's a reminder of who we are." As aides left the room, the president remained still, thinking deeply. Outside, the world waited for his voice. The calm before the storm had begun. Ordinary Americans were crying as they watched Trump's words replay on screens across the country. In a New Jersey retirement home, a 94-year-old veteran sat in front of a small TV. His hands shook as he whispered, "That man loves this country." Nurses stood silently behind him, some with tears in their eyes. In rural Ohio, a single mother pulled her car over on the highway. Through tears, she recorded a video. President Trump spoke from the heart. He said what every real American has been too afraid to say. The clip spread like wildfire, adding to the growing wave of emotion sweeping through the nation. Even networks that once criticized Trump played the full video without interruption. The sight of him standing firm, defending the flag, brought unexpected silence from even his harshest critics. Meanwhile, in Omar's district, protests began to fade. Supporters slowly disappeared, their chants replaced by the sound of church bells and the quiet hum of reflection. America wasn't divided that afternoon. For a few powerful hours, under one flag, one voice, and one truth, the country felt united again. And that was Trump's real victory. By early afternoon, Washington, D.C., was buzzing louder than ever. Every political reporter in the Capitol was chasing one question: where is Ilhan Omar? Her office phone lines were jammed, her spokesperson unreachable. The silence was deafening. Meanwhile, news anchors repeated Trump's statement on loop. His voice, calm yet cutting, played over footage of Omar's rally. "If your president is the president of Somalia, perhaps you should return to your homeland." Across the nation, Americans stopped what they were doing to watch again, not out of anger, but pride. It was the tone, the conviction. He didn't shout. He didn't mock. He simply told the truth as millions felt it. In Minneapolis, an elderly immigrant woman whispered to her neighbor, "That's leadership." He spoke like a father defending his home. Back in Omar's circle, panic spread. Advisors argued over whether to issue a statement or apologize. One aide slammed her phone down. "It's too late. The people have turned. Every word we say will sound fake." And they were right. For the first time, Ilhan Omar realized silence was no shield, it was surrender. America hadn't felt this united in years. Trump's clapback became more than a political moment. It was a rallying cry for pride, honesty, and belonging. At a veterans hall in Texas, men and women who once served under the American flag stood in a line, tears streaming down their faces as they saluted a screen showing Trump's words. "He spoke for all of us," one of them said softly. A video of a young boy in Kansas went viral, too. Dressed in a small red cap, standing before the flag, he recited Trump's quote with his hand over his heart. The caption read, "This is what America sounds like again." The video spread to millions. Teachers played it in classrooms. Churches echoed it during evening prayers. For many, it felt spiritual, like a lost sense of love for country was coming back to life. And in the middle of that emotional storm stood Trump, not shouting, not celebrating, but watching silently from the Oval Office. He turned to Caroline Leavitt and said, "Sometimes truth doesn't need applause. It just needs courage." The whole nation felt that courage. By 3 p.m., Omar finally appeared, not on TV, not on stage, but quietly walking through a back hallway of her district office. Cameras caught her expression, shaken, pale, eyes darting downward. The clip went viral instantly. Reporters shouted, "Congresswoman, do you regret your words?" No answer, only silence and the click of her heels echoing against the marble floors. Inside, her staff sat frozen as they watched cable news. The split screen showed Omar's silence beside Trump's quote in bold letters. "America is the homeland, not Somalia, not anywhere else." Calls for investigation flooded Congress. Even Democrats privately distanced themselves on social media. Her own voters began posting American flags, writing, "I supported her once, but I'm American first." Trump's Truth's social page now read like a celebration of unity, not of anger, but of awakening. Veterans, moms, and students wrote thousands of heartfelt comments. "Thank you for restoring our pride. We cried when we heard you speak." Omar closed her office blinds as the world outside raged in emotion. Love for America had drowned her out completely. And Trump, he didn't gloat. He simply smiled and said, "Mission accomplished. America's heart is awake again." The sun had started to sink behind the Minneapolis skyline, casting long shadows over the city as Ilhan Omar's world seemed to darken with it. News vans lined up across the block outside her office, their bright lights piercing through the growing dusk. Every reporter wanted a word, but there was only silence. Inside, Omar sat in her chair, staring blankly at the screen, replaying her own voice. "We are happy that Hassan is our president." Each replay hit her harder than the last. Her staff tried to comfort her, but the air was heavy with quiet panic. One aide finally whispered, "Congresswoman, this isn't going away." Meanwhile, across America, Trump's words continued to spread like wildfire. "If your president is the president of Somalia" had become a viral sound bite. People turned it into songs, short clips, even murals painted overnight. In small towns, veterans gathered in diners. Truckers blasted the speech from their radios. Families stood to applaud at their TVs. In that single evening, one man's words restored something America had been missing, a sense of shared pride. And while Trump's message soared, Omar's voice faded into the background, trembling under the weight of regret. By nightfall, the nation was no longer divided into red or blue. Across states and cities, Americans, young and old, felt something deep stirring again. In Georgia, a factory worker paused during his late shift, holding his phone to listen again to Trump's words. He whispered to a coworker, "He said what every real American's been too afraid to say." In Montana, a teacher ended her lesson early, telling her students, "You don't have to be perfect to love your country. You just have to be loyal." The class clapped, and that moment went viral, too. Reporters noticed something incredible. This wasn't just political news anymore. It had become emotional, spiritual, even. A collective heartbeat pulsed across the nation, one built on gratitude and faith in leadership. In the White House, Trump watched clips from across America, churches, diners, schools, all playing his message. Caroline Leavitt smiled softly. "Sir, the people aren't just supporting you. They're moved." Trump nodded. "That's because it's not about me, Caroline. It's about the flag." And in that moment, America didn't just hear a president, they felt a father reminding his children who they were. It was nearly midnight now. The streets of D.C. were quiet, but the country was wide awake. Millions were glued to their screens, watching a live broadcast of Trump addressing the nation once more. He stood alone behind the podium, the stars and stripes behind him. His voice was steady, calm, but filled with something rare, emotion. "Every nation has a heartbeat," he began softly. "Ours is freedom. Ours is loyalty. And when someone forgets that, when they call another land their home, it hurts us all. But we don't answer hate with hate. We answer it with truth." The camera zoomed in as he placed his hand on his heart. "To every immigrant who came here legally, to every soldier who fought under this flag, you are what makes America great. And to those who use our freedom to disrespect it, well, America will always remember where her true children stand." Tears rolled down the faces of millions watching at home. Old veterans saluted their TVs. Children hugged their parents. That night, America didn't see politics. They saw love, raw, unfiltered, and real. And it came from the 47th President of the United States.